And we're back. Welcome to another edition of Crossroads Comedy Project, coming to you live from Comedy Off Broadway, the premier comedy club in Lexington, Kentucky. I am Josh Sardam, one of your hosts.
And I'm Mish Shalosh.
And today we've got a fantastic guest with us. This guy's kind of, to hopefully not embarrass him and put him on the spot, he's kind of one of my comedy daddies. He's one of the guys that gave me advice when I first started out, and kind of helped direct me where I was going with my big bumbling self. He's a local celebrity here, and he's definitely someone who everybody in the area knows. He's an anchor on WLX 18. He's been a comic since 1995. Please help us welcome Lee Cruz.
Good to see you, boys.
Yeah, man. It's so happy that you're on the show. We were absolutely thrilled, matter of fact. Ish and I have been trying to get you or to figure out a date when we were going to get you on the show for a couple months now.
Well, I kept waiting for this thing to collapse.
Right?
Yeah.
But apparently you guys won't go away. So I thought the first time you ask, oh, that'll be over in a few weeks. And then you bring Scott over here and he screws everything up. I have now got 1,000 things to correct with that podcast he did. So.
Fantastic. I can't wait to hear that stuff. What would you correct on it?
Just about every story he told.
That's awesome.
He misremembers everything.
Does
It's
he?
the legal term, I guess. Yeah.
Misremembers? Mm-hmm. I would say it has something to do with the amount he imbibes, what might have something to do with it.
Could be.
But, you know, he was an absolutely fun guest, though. He was a lot of fun on the show.
No.
Well,
Yeah, there were some fun stories in there.
there was. Especially the one about Jon Stewart, and you had something to do with that.
Yeah, here's where I think he kind of went haywire on that. Most of it is true. But, so I forgot how because I remember listening to that going, what? So they canceled Comedy Central, whoever the cable subscriber was at that point in Lexington.
Right.
So Comedy Central, in order to get Outrage built, they decided to do shows in these markets where that happened. One of them was the new host of The Daily Show, Jon Stewart. Mm-hmm. They would also work with radio stations to promote it.
Yeah.
So they happened to choose our radio station. At the time, I was working with Z103 and Double Q.
Gotcha.
They were together then. And they needed a host for the show. And the promotions guy said, we got an in-house comic. And Comedy Central said, great, he can host the show.
Jesus.
That's wonderful. So that night was at the Singletary Center. And on the bill was supposed to be me, Jeff Garlin, Jon Stewart. Jeff Garlin from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we went 8, and then we get to the show, and then the Comedy Central people go, we got Jeff, don't worry about it. So I have access backstage because I'm part of the radio family.
Sure.
Scott is with me.
Right.
Scott knows Jon Stewart from his days working the Punchline in Atlanta.
Right.
So we get back there to John, and we tell him, or Scott tells him, hey, they talk for a minute. He goes, this is my buddy, and he was just told that he couldn't open for you. And Stewart goes, who said that? And then we point to those weasels over there, and John goes over there, and we don't know what he said, but he was, pointing his finger, wagging his finger, and he comes back, you do your time.
There you go.
See, I think Scott made it look like he was like a nobody. And then,
Scott made it. You heard the show. He made it sound like it was because of him.
yeah, you were just tagging along, and they said,
That's right. That's what it was. I was laying by a dumpster.
exactly.
And Scott came along and said, would you like to come inside for warmth? That's the way Scott told
he
it.
said he hyped you up to Stewart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's
he
right.
said-
That is right. Yeah,
he
I
said
remember
he
that.
hyped him
now.
up and said, hey, I know
No,
this guy.
I was already on the bill. I remember listening. And I'm like, what, they've taken me off the bill.
I believe the exact thing he said was, I heard you don't have an opener. I got a guy for you.
yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what he said.
That's why I had to come to the show.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, well, thanks. I'll see you guys.
All right. It's been fantastic. There's another story that Scott tells a lot, and it has to do with going to James Gregory's house for some holiday party.
Yeah, that's a great story.
And
Now, that one he's got right.
we're talking about
Pretty much all of it. I would imagine.
It's the hot tub in his bedroom. Something about
Well, James, it's funny if his fans only knew how that guy lived.
Right.
I mean, because and James, to his credit, he sells it this way. So, like, he told us, and the owner of the club, Jordan, was with us, and we go.
Much to his chagrin, so was it Jordan's wife.
Yeah. Jordan. So we go down there, and James gave us directions. Says, I live in this piece of the woods. I'm the house behind the pond.
Right.
Well, it's a gated community. It's a gigantic mansion, 8 bathrooms, marble everywhere.
Really.
A shower, like a 5-head shower, like you'd see at the YMCA,
Not like around one person, like on the wall.
Well, it was
like,
kind of
like
funny.
inviting
No,
more than one person.
You'd be intimate, but more like Silkwood, that kind of thing, where you're really getting clean. But the great, I think the culmination of that night was just the odd characters. It was comedy's version of the Star Wars Cantina.
Oh, Jesus.
And seeing James serve ham. Again, you got to remember, you feel like you're at the Museum of Art in New York, and he's
Right.
serving ham on a paper plate that he slices, and bare hands it and slaps it on your Dixie manufactured plate. And then we're standing by one of the many fireplaces
Right.
talking with Tim Wilson.
Right.
And James walks up to see if we're okay, everything's good. And Tim delivers that line, James, would be all right if I throw this plate in the fire. James, I'd rather you not. And it was just odd.
That was a pretty good impression. Yeah, it was. It's like you hung out with him or something.
Yeah, I missed him.
Oh yeah, he comes up a lot on this podcast.
He does, actually, yeah.
Yeah, we had Ron Sexton on here. Of course, that was his comedy daddy. Yeah, but Scott talks about like you and him like faded off to to explore the house or whatever, and then there was this hot tub in the bath, and Scott was gonna strip off his clothes and jump in, and you were like, no, you don't remember that?
No, I don't remember that, but I mean, that may be true. I don't remember that.
But he said I said, yeah, I'm gonna take all my clothes off, I'm gonna jump in that hot tub.
Oh, and I stopped him?
You were like, no, don't do that.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember the story.
He'll tell you. He'll tell you.
I don't want to know.
Maybe true. I mean, something I wouldn't want to see.
No, of course not.
But I don't know why I would have stopped them from doing it.
Yeah. What's your favorite Scott Wilson story? You've got a ton. You guys hung out together the last 20-something years.
I learned the business from Scott pretty
Right.
much because he was already doing it, so he took me under his wing. And I remember that was the first earned laugh for me, was where I felt like, okay, maybe I really do belong, because I was doing open mic up in Louisville, and my first experience on stage was a jam-packed open mic, and I was the act between Jeff Caldwell and Brett Leake.
Oh, okay.
And Jeff did really well. Actually, Jeff went maybe before Brett. I may have went after Brett. I know I went after Brett. Jeff, and I remember just being fascinated by the way Jeff was so cool on stage. I just thought, this guy's got it.
Yeah.
I would give anything to be where he is.
Sure.
Mentally.
Yeah.
I remember they flashed the light. Of course, when you're new, you're thinking all about timing. Just like, oh my God, what if I go too long? What if I go too short? All these insignificant questions you got about
Right.
your presence. And Jeff looked at the light and said, oh, I see they're giving me the light, which means we love your work. Please continue. And I thought, that's the funniest thing ever. Because I've just been given the rules, about how this works. And then Brett went up and killed it with masterstroke of comedy. The guy is just a genius. And then before he hobbles off stage, they announced to the crowd that 7-minute set will be seen tomorrow night on the Tonight Show. Brett just worked that out, to make sure he got all the kinks out of it.
Nice.
It's like next week or tomorrow night, something like that.
Right.
Here's Lee Cruz, who nobody knows.
Right.
But Brett was so kind and generous. Both him and Jeff were very nice to me, and I got laughs, you know. But after 2 or 3 times of doing it in Louisville, then Scott's still wife, Peggy, and the club manager at the time, Amy, were there getting ready to start the open mic here in Lexington.
Right.
And they came to me and said, we got one in Lexington. Would you like to come to Lexington? Well, I live in Lexington.
Right.
And I told them that's where I live. And they go, oh, well, you should come do our open mic. So I did, and I met Scott, and, you know, he gave me the same business he was giving you guys.
Yeah.
You know, about, you know, don't make eye contact. You bugs.
Yeah.
Are worthless. You know, and all that stuff. And I'm on stage doing my act, and he's sitting over there along the wall, and I started one bit. It may have been, I can't remember, something about my dad. And I hear Scott laughing at it.
Yeah.
And that was validation for me. I
Sure.
thought, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
The comic, the professional comic, thinks this is funny.
Yeah, if you get Scott to laugh, that's
So that made me feel good. That was when I earned it, I thought.
Yeah.
And then we became buddies, and I would use him for radio stuff, and we became friends, and you know, we vacationed together, and
Yeah.
you know, I go around correcting him.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever laughed at my jokes.
No.
Well, you're not funny-ish.
I know. Thank you, Lee. Thanks for the validation, buddy.
He sat and bent my ear for about 30 minutes the other night about how you and he can't go anywhere without being recognized. And he said, he goes, I counted on one hand when I was in Florida, and four times in an hour I got recognized. He goes, if it was Lee was here, it would have been 4 times that much. He goes, we
What he
can't go
didn't
anywhere.
tell you was they were calling him Goofy.
He does have the ears.
And the height.
And the height, yeah. Man, I tell you what, hanging out with Scott Wilson's got to be just on a day-to-day basis. That's just got to be a trip, man.
Well, he's one of my best friends. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing that we developed is that beyond comedy. I mean,
Sure.
we got so much history together
Yeah,
that Scott and I. There's something I can't really tell. I'm not going to tell these stories,
Okay.
but there are a few stories that I can call Scott and relay to him. That if he were here, both of us would be in trouble because there are moments that we're laughing at inappropriate things
right.
that most of humanity finds appalling.
Sure.
But because we're comics, and as you guys are as well,
Right.
You know, I think Steve Harvey said that. You know, the night or the day of a tragedy, we, meaning comics, have jokes ready to go right then.
Right.
That's how we deal with the world. That's the prism we operate through. It's not for public consumption.
Right.
It may be later when we think the civilians can handle it,
Yeah.
but at that moment, you know, some tragedy happens. No matter how sad, I could look at you two and get a laugh
Sure.
because it's just there's something funny about it.
It's just too dark.
Yeah, but yeah, they can't handle it. But so, and I have all that history with Scott where we laugh at things that other people wouldn't.
Sure.
You know, that's what friendships are. really.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're birds of a feather and you got the same
Yeah.
sense of humor and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever tour as a comedian, or?
Yeah, I mean, I always had full-time work with radio or television.
Right.
But I love comedy. You know, I consider myself a comic first.
Well, you are.
So
Absolutely.
I was always working clubs, whether it was in Indianapolis or Dayton, Louisville, Cincinnati,
Gotcha.
Chattanooga. You know, I was always on the road going places or doing. Now I do more corporate shows and clubs. There's not that many clubs that interest me anymore. But I don't know how many dates I would do a year, but I'd probably do close to 50
In a year.
in a year.
Yeah.
You know, with full time work, and if you count, it's more than that if you count what I do here locally.
I mean that's.
I mean, you have 2 shows a day, or
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
50 shows in a year is still impressive
nuts.
nowadays, especially knowing what I mean, you do Hey Kentucky, you do LEX. I mean, you've got another a radio show as well, don't you?
I left the radio show.
Oh, you left the
Yeah,
radio.
he did the
okay.
morning radio show. He doesn't do that
Okay.
anymore.
Yeah. 10 to noon. I used to do it, and I couldn't because of the Lee and
not
Haley
fun.
show.
Gotcha.
It was just too much. So,
Yeah, so I mean, you're a real busy guy, and you got 50 dates a year. That's crazy.
yeah, and I probably have that many this year.
Wow.
You know, the way it's looking at the moment, then again, it could all dry up and go away. But
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, there are moments I get anxiety just like anybody else would, but I wouldn't trade it when it's going good. There's nothing better.
Oh no, it's a great feeling.
And there isn't. I know a lot of comics that would like, and I know I would like to be in my position, but nothing feels better than when you're on stage and
Right.
getting laughs. I don't care how much television or radio or whatever you're doing. Nothing feels like that.
Yeah. No, I agree. God, the shows that I've gotten some laughs, which are very few, but the ones I've gotten laughs, they felt really good.
Even if they were inadvertent.
Accidental.
Yeah.
This guy. Some of my best, disassembling myself jokes came from him. So
Really?
yeah.
So he makes you feel shitty about yourself as well?
No, he points out the shitty parts about me.
Oh,
and
okay.
says you should
There
say
you go.
this. This is really degrading. And of course, I laugh and go, "You're right. That's awesome." Of course, I came in like when I first met Lee. I kept teasing him, and he was hitting me right back with stuff, and it was like, okay. I just the picture he's got out in the lobby.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like Niles Crane. If you ever look at that picture, he looks like Niles Crane in that picture.
It's like 30 years old.
Yeah, how old were you in that picture? You were
I don't know.
Young.
Probably.
yeah. He was pretty young.
Yeah, he looks like he's 60 now. Yeah, that's about right.
Better than looking like Tony Shalhoub in Men in Black.
Still with that shit, right?
With a little tiny
Let it
head.
go, Josh.
Little
Let it
tiny
go.
head.
Just
You
let
got a
it
little
go.
tiny head, man.
Jesus Christ. Me and my head. You have an obsession with my fucking head.
It's got plugs that are out of control right now. So
Now you got
Would
leaks.
you do plugs if you had to, Ish?
I had
he
plugs.
has plugs.
Oh, you do have plugs. Well, they look pretty good then. I didn't know.
Do you want to know the story about the plugs?
Why'd you do it?
Well, because I was fucking balding, first of all, and it was horrible. I just got a divorce. First time I was on stage was that bracket competition last month, or last March,
Yeah.
last year. I had told Scott if I made the finals, I couldn't even show up. And he's like, why? I was like, well, I got to go to Turkey. I did my plugs in Turkey.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a whole lot cheaper than doing it here.
Right, because they don't have to pay for any kind of sterilization.
Oh, I guess not.
Yeah, you don't have to worry. Here it's a lot cheaper in Turkey.
It's a lot cheaper.
We don't have to pay for medical degrees or sterilization or
Stupid shit like
anesthesia.
that.
Yeah.
We don't actually have to know what we're doing.
So I mean, is it like a rotating crop kind of thing? How do they do
No,
it?
they take the little hairs from the side
Side
and
of
they
his
just
butt.
plant it into the front.
So what happened? What's the side of your head look like where it's missing the follicle? Isn't it?
Nothing, because they're taking one at a
I
time.
see. So it
Shit
just-
took 10 hours.
So they thin the hair on the side to make you have thin hair on top.
Kind of, yeah. But if you keep your hair long, you can't never tell. There's no scars or anything.
There's
'cause
no
they
way to
plug it.
regrow though, right? I mean, if you lose that, you're really screwed.
Yes, I'm screwed. But most people don't lose their hair on their side. You ever see, like Josh?
And most bald guys, like
Yeah.
Josh.
He shaves it, but obviously
No, I can still grow on the side.
he can still go from the side, right?
Interesting.
I just would never take hair from my butt and put it on top of my head like you did. That's just crazy.
Is it? I have hair, you don't, so I'm just going to go with that.
I look good bald.
Do you really? Who tells you that?
Well, I do. All right, so you've been doing comedy a long time. Who's probably your favorite guy that you like doing comedy with? Like when you were out doing a show and you got the best reaction, this guy was there. Whether he was the headliner or you were the headliner, who's your favorite
Well,
guy?
like I said, I miss Tim Wilson.
Yeah,
When I go on the road with him, it's always entertaining. When you guys were talking about how I treat you, which you deserve. One of the guys I loved who's no longer with us is a guy by the name of Ted Norkey. He was a comic from, I want to say, Wisconsin or Minnesota. And I didn't even get to meet Ted.
yeah.
And I was the MC at the Caravan in Louisville, I think. They gave me his intro, and they said, Ted's your feature act. He's not here yet, but this is what you say about him. So I go up on stage, and I do my act, which I think I did okay. And then here comes Ted, and I extend my hand after I read the intro, and he grabs it. He pulls me into him forcibly, and he whispers in my ear, "They hated you." That was my first introduction to Ted.
That's great.
And he beat me up like that every night of the week.
That's awesome.
Until finally I just went back at him, and then he grinned,
Yeah.
and I cracked the facade. I go, oh, this is what this is. Okay.
Right.
You're not really an
A
ass.
dick.
You're just, you're,
Just trying to
you
do-
enjoy this, I
Right.
say.
You're just the
Which
sick-
I do too. I like that.
Yeah. We're all kind of sick bastards when
Yeah.
it comes to that kind of thing, I think. Scott especially loves that shit. You'll sit there and say something to him, and he'll smile and go, "Shut up,"
Oh,
just
yeah.
totally
I thought
crumble
he
the
hated my
house.
guts for a year.
Well, he does hate you, Ish.
Yeah, he does. He said it's because of
right.
the hair plugs. So, you have been doing the Valentine. Have you been doing the Valentine show every year? Or
No, I think this is the second or third. Can't remember.
Yeah, because we saw you last year when you were here, and again we're going to see you this year as well, just because they keep having me on the damn clock. But you do a line in your show that made me laugh really hard, and I came into it. I was like, "Where did you think of that line?" It was the Groucho Marx line, the cigar line.
Oh yeah, well that's yeah, and I oftentimes you'll see me give Groucho credit.
Oh, yeah.
For that because I stole that.
Oh no, but I mean it's
Yeah, it just fits into the bit.
right. It's brilliant.
But I often let the I'd take the laugh.
Oh, yeah.
But it's Groucho's joke, and I
Absolutely.
usually give him credit for
And you
it,
do,
even though he's
you
been
do.
dead for 50 years.
Right, but you still do.
Yeah.
You did the last 2 times I saw you. But that joke though, like you came up with the premise on it, the setup on it, and that joke just fit perfectly in there. I'm just that's the part of creating your set that always it keeps me still befuddled to this day. Like I can come up with the premises, I can come up with bringing it up, but it's always that punchline. It's always that left turn that's eluding me a lot with my writing. Now, how long did it take you to get to the point where, in your writing, you figured out your left turns? Did you come up with your left turn first and then come up with premises?
Sometimes it does work that way.
Yeah.
And then you build a premise around it. But I tell you what, right now, as far as when you say left turn, I think misdirection.
Yeah.
The best in the business at that at the moment is Anthony Jeselnik.
Yeah. He's
Ain't nobody better than that guy.
He is.
When it comes to misdirection, especially.
he's dark.
Yeah, he's very dark,
really
but if you
dark.
take away the subject matter, the way it's crafted
Right.
is so good. It's formulaic in a way, but I mean, it's so well hidden in everything he's doing. It's artistry. It's beautiful to watch.
You know, he I think that's part of his personality, because I walked up to him upstairs after we had met, and I said, "Hey, you know, we do a podcast at a Comedy on Broadway.
Yeah.
Would you like to be on it?" He goes, "Absolutely not."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he explained he just doesn't do podcasts anymore. He hates them. But I mean, you know, and he was like, "I don't mean to be a dick." You know, he nice guy. But it was just great how he did that, because you could tell that's just his personality, and that's his delivery on stage too.
Well, I don't think. I mean, you can't be too far from who you really are. I think that's too hard of a sell.
You're either a character or you're yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you can be an amplification,
Yeah.
but there has to be some truth in there. Otherwise, it ain't going to work.
Right.
Because I mean, again, you guys should know this by now. I mean, they'll sense it.
Oh yeah.
If you're being fraudulent in any way, whether that means you're racked by fear or you're unsure of yourself, they tighten up.
Oh yeah.
And now it ain't working. So you can't. I don't know how you could stray from that. You know, and just give some kind of Olivier performance that's comedy, because you know inherently you're trying to make people laugh, and the only way they're going to do that is identify with you.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think everybody is like Greg Hahn, for instance.
Yeah.
He's not loud and boisterous 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but that's Greg.
That is Greg.
He is amplified on stage,
yeah. Right.
but he's not like completely different.
Yeah.
Off.
Now, how long did it take you to find your voice on stage?
A long time.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it takes forever. You know, I still don't know that I've got it completely yet. I mean, you know, when I get away from the stage for a while, it takes me a few shows to shake the rust off.
Yeah.
Yeah, in order to be comfortable to die 1,000 deaths, that's what it is, guys. I mean, you just once you know that it doesn't matter what they think.
Yeah.
You get to that moment and really believe it, not just say it,
Right.
really believe it, then you're okay.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I've repeated that advice you gave me numerous times about the 1,000 deaths, dying
Yeah.
1,000 deaths to the newer guys, because it's like, hey, you got to get up there and you got to do it. You got to scratch it off. And it was Greg Warren, I think, or Morton, one or the other, talked about how
Well, they look just alike.
yeah, they look just alike. Well, the advice was that it's valid when you have a really bad death on stage, because you can literally say to yourself, "Hey, I feel good. That's one more I don't have to worry about." You know, you're
Yeah.
getting it out of the way. But no, I totally agree. And I'm heading towards that. I don't care when I go on stage type. I care, but I don't care.
Yeah, you
so
have
much.
to be excited
Yeah.
to be on stage. Otherwise, you're just not going to be funny.
Right.
But you don't have to have anxiety about it.
Right. It's like,
That's the thing.
I'm more concerned about how material is going to perform, and I'm like watching in my head. And there was something else that you had told me about. You learn over time how if you're doing a particular set and it's not getting a response, you learn to read that and move on to something else that hopefully will get a response about reading the crowd. And that's kind of neat how you go through the progression. And when you're first new, Jesus, you don't see anything past that bright light. And then as you get used to it, you're starting to see the rest of the room and you're looking at people, and it's a neat process.
It's just like quarterback in football,
Yeah.
Tom Brady sees 1,000 things before some rookie does.
Right.
Because he's going through his progressions. He's going to call an audible.
Yeah.
It's going to based on tempo.
Yeah.
All of that is the same for a seasoned comic on stage who, a lot of comics, I think, well, if audience is giving you low energy, they make a mistake of hyping their own energy.
Right.
And that makes them crawl into a shell. What you need to do is back it down and be soft.
Yeah.
And slowly build them like a crock pot.
Gotcha.
James Gregory is the one who taught me about noise in a room. If people are talking and they're distracting, first thing you do, and I've always applied this. He taught me this a long time ago. Go to that side. Don't address them. Just go to that side of the room where they are.
Yeah.
Get as close to them as you can on stage. Then, if they're still distracting, soften your voice to where they can hear themselves now. Because usually they're sort of unaware. They're just and then they shut up.
Right.
If that doesn't work, then you go at them.
Yeah.
Your third option is nuclear, where you go, hey,
Nuclear.
you and the tube top, and also your wife.
Right.
You know.
He's seen me go out before. But no, that's great advice. I always like hearing the different tidbits that you and Scott give out, because you guys got combined 50 plus years of experience, and it's valid stuff. And I wish more of the younger guys would take the time to listen instead of just trying to say, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be Nate, Bargatze, and Nate's got 16 years on the road. He didn't just start. Or I'm going to go be Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart has been on the road a long time. He didn't just become funny, and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, and there's some things. Listen, I think there's things you can learn, but really, it's a rebellious sport we're in here.
Yeah.
If I was coming along now, I'd probably say, screw you guys too. I'll just do it myself. I'll figure it out. And you probably will. I don't think you can teach. You certainly can't teach comedy. You can give advice, but you can't teach. I can't make you funny.
No, because there's no formula, one formula that fits everybody. Everybody's got their own thing that they're going to do on stage, and the only way really to do that is to get on stage. You can't be in your living room doing that, or the guys at work at the water cooler. That's not going to work.
When it comes down to it, like if a guy, I do believe this, if a guy is funny in his living room, like he's making all his buddies laugh, he could be a comic.
Sure.
Now, does he have the cojones
Right.
to stand on stage in front of strangers
Right.
and face that wrath
Yeah,
and the humiliation? Probably not.
probably not.
He's a puss.
Right.
So that's the difference.
Yeah.
We're Marines.
Well, I get told all the time I'm not that funny. Well, I can do what you're doing. Well, then do it.
Yeah, get up
Yeah.
there, Hoss.
Jeez.
Put your money where your mouth is.
There's not a day doesn't go by somebody tell me how unfunny I am.
Exactly.
That's just at the house.
That's just,
No, you get that all the time. People, probably because of some political statement I've made. Maybe
Sure.
that's what happens. But yeah, I get emails like that, hate mail all the time.
yeah.
I love it.
He
You love
said
hate
I
mail?
love it.
Do you ever address the hate mail? Best stuff.
I
Huh?
love that stuff.
We've
It's like
got
heroin for me.
We've had some hate mail.
we got some hate mail.
You
We-
guys get hate mail?
We
Oh,
addressed
yeah.
it on here because
Get to read it? That's
'cause
good.
He's a Palestinian. I'm a Jew, so we've got
Oh,
we've
had
drawn some political
pretty strong hate mail coming
Yeah.
through.
The heads will roll. Remember?
The heads will roll. Go back.
Which side were they on?
We don't know.
You don't know. They basically both called. Somebody called us both a racist, apparently.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that works.
Yeah, we're not sure.
We're not sure.
Aside from the Valentine's Day show, you got anything else you want to plug?
I don't know. I think it's just private stuff, corporate shows I got coming up. Well, no, that's not true. I have signed this deal that you guys will be interested in. The coming up in the summer when we do our big competition,
Right.
whoever is selected, like Ish was last year,
Right.
will go with me and Scott to the outdoor venue of the Pioneer Playhouse. That's in August.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to do it under the stars, a 2-night stay there.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
They're in Danville. That's
Yeah,
where that's going to happen.
Nice.
that's pretty cool, and probably good sized crowd there too.
Yeah, they've done really. Jimmy Walker was last year's
Oh, wow.
headliner.
Wow.
I'll be there this year with the likes of you and Ish.
Oh, well, hey,
Well, that's cool.
that'd be amazing.
Well, you do know the highlight of my comedy career is Renfro Valley with Lee and Scott. So you know how shitty it's been going for me. Just so you know.
It was a bad night for all of us.
Yeah, what, right?
I mean, not my show, yours.
Yours.
Watching that.
I was the only non-white person there in that whole building. Yeah. Yeah, that was scary.
But let me say this. Thank goodness for that burning cross. That helped us get
Yes.
out of the parking lot.
That helped a lot.
Yeah.
It did.
My God.
Because I had to know. I couldn't see. It was dusty, so
I got the hell out of there.
illumination.
Yeah, I've done a show down in Somerset, and it was quite rowdy.
Yeah. You didn't do that bad, Ish.
No, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, he did all right.
It
Yeah.
was all right.
You did all right.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
All right.
I haven't even done comedy for a year yet. You know that? It's only March, yeah.
No, I can tell.
Yeah, there you go. Because nobody's giving me advice. Josh talking about all the advice.
I
that-
work here, so I mean, I see Scott a lot, and then on open mics, I see Lee and I talk to them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but you don't ask if we give Josh good advice.
Right.
A lot of times Josh walks away and Scott and I laugh. Watch him try this. That idiot.
Then I walk up the stage and go, "Great advice, guys. That was awesome."
And they're hitting each other like, look at this. Wait for this shit to happen.
All right, so Lee Cruz will be here at Comedy Off Broadway on the 14th for Valentine's Day. Seeing as how this show is going to be hitting the wire later tonight, you'll be able to make your reservations at comedyoffbroadway.com. And be sure to check out the rest of the acts that we have coming up here. Don't forget, guys, we're on Podbean, iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and soon to be SoundCloud as well. So we're all over the place, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow, that kind of good thing. And if you have any words of advice, hate, or whatever, you can email us at crossroadscomedyproject@gmail.com. And I think that's going to just about do it for us, guys. Lee, you got anything else?
No.
All right, well, thank you very much for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're
Well.
a busy guy.
This has changed my life. Let me just
Seriously.
say, I'll remember this as long as it takes for me to get to my car.
There you go.
You've had all-time low. You just don't know it yet.
Well, for Lee Cruz, Ish Shalash, I'm Josh Sarv. You guys have a good night.